Hi everybody, this is Blind Sailing UK. We're just bringing you an audible version of what it's like to join blind sailing, and we're going to hear from a couple of the sailors. So Blind Sailing is a charity that operates up and down the UK, relies heavily on volunteers and clubs to get involved. But at the heart of this is not just our volunteers, it's the VI sailors that we bring in. So I'm just going to get two of our guests tonight, Chris Albert and Kate Healy, just to introduce themselves, and then we'll find out a bit more about them. So, hi, Chris.
Hi, Lucy.
So, Chris, where are you based in the UK?
I'm up near Newcastle. I'm living in Washington at the moment, soon to move to South Shields, where my sailing club is. And I sail out of there single-handedly and also crew on a boat on a weekend for racing. And I've also recently purchased another yacht because blind sailing's got me into sailing so much.
Wow, Chris has got his own blind sailing fleet going. So, Kate, do you want to just introduce you where you are based?
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm Kate and I'm currently in Winchester, Hampshire.
Brilliant. So, Kate, could you just give us a bit of an overview of your eyesight? Because in blind sailing, if we operate at world level, we work under the IPSA classification, B1, B2, B3. And then it's quite nice, actually, because we've got representatives of all three categories. So I'll start with Kate introducing a bit about her sight. If you don't mind, Kate, like just describe how you became blind, if that's all right, and just
Yeah,
what
no
you can
problem.
see at this moment in time.
Okay, so I'm one of a twin, and we were born prematurely. We were born 11 weeks early. We were put into incubators to keep us alive, but due to medical negligence, I am now what they would class as completely blind, although I do have less than 10% vision, so I have light and dark and the tiniest bit of shadow, and my brain does a lot of guesswork.
Brilliant. It's amazing watching you guys use the light and dark, and we'll cover that in another audible where we look at how that works. I'm going to skip myself as a B2, and I'm going to go to Chris as a B3.
Right, so my eyesight deteriorated 10, 12 years ago now as a result of diabetes. So I have diabetic retinopathy, which means I don't have much colour perception left and not much detail in anything. So everything I do has to be magnified. So in sailing, even when I'm virtually on top of the mark, I can't see it till the last minute.
Brilliant. And then I, Lucy, sit in the B2 category, where I've sat all my life. I did competitive swimming as a B2, and now competitive sailing as a B2. I was born with photophobia nystagmus. So my eyes move in a pendular motion, and I see in 2D, and I just see blobs really. But like Kate says, my mind makes up things, and it has done since I was born. So the world is really what I've made up and made it to be. So as you can tell, guys, in blind sailing, there's a lot of different levels of visual impairment. We also have guys that are B4, that are just sitting slightly above Chris. Sometimes they come to us with RP, where they're just starting to lose their sight, and sometimes it's people with visual impairment like nystagmus, where it's not quite dropped into the B3 zone. But we welcome with open arms absolutely everybody with a vision impairment to come and join us. So, Chris, how did you find blind sailing? How did you stumble across us?
Well, my introduction to blind sailing was absolutely by chance. That Lucy had sent out a flyer inviting people for a taster weekend over at Windermere. And the guy that I ski with every year, who's also visually impaired, invited me along for the taster weekend. So I went down. It was the most perfect weekend, best sailing conditions, shorts and t-shirt all weekend. Sailed and it was absolutely hooked, and they've never been able to get rid of me since. I've never sailed in shorts and t-shirts since, but it was a great introduction, and they can't get rid of me now. They can't shake me off.
Oh, brilliant. So, Kate, how did you find us?
So for me, it wasn't by chance. I was fortunate to, I work for a sightless charity not too far from where I live. And there was an opportunity to go on a tool ship for the day just to experience sailing. and so I got the bug of sailing in general for that. And then one of the former chair of trustees, Brian, said he knew you, Lucy, and that he was pretty sure that because I had such a good time that I would get on really well with you guys. And it's thanks to him, really. I've never looked back. And now, like Chris, you just can't get rid of me. I'm like a bad penny that sticks around for every opportunity possible.
And I gotta say that's the same for most of the guys that join us. We create a bit of a family atmosphere and a supportive atmosphere. Chris, what's one thing that you would say since you started sailing and being involved? You're heavily involved with your own club at home, which blind sailing really encourages its sail at home scheme. So don't worry if you're not located to where we train. We really encourage supporting you into clubs. But Chris, what's one thing that sailing has given you as a skill set that's enabled you to perhaps, move on at work, move on in life, that perhaps if you hadn't found sailing, you wouldn't have been able to have moved on?
Well, I think blind sailing has inspired me really to see people with less vision than me and what they're capable of. Having worked and sailed with some B1s, I just find it absolutely inspirational. And my job is to work with kids who are either deaf and blind in school, and I now use my sailing to inspire them to come and try things and to talk to their parents and say, look, we do things differently, but we can do everything anybody else does. We've got vision loss, but we just do things slightly differently. So I've taken kids sailing, skiing, rock climbing, all sorts, even skydiving, just to push that little envelope and find out what we can still do and what we can still get away with. And I don't think we're fairly edge yet. Me and Lucy will try things, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, we'll reinvent it.
And I think that's the thing, being adaptive as a charity, and giving people a sort of what I call an inclusive environment, so they feel safe. And we hope we break down barriers for people before they arrive and on the water. Kate, what's the one thing? I think for you as a person, so many things, just like Chris, but what's the one thing in your mind that stands out at the moment that since you sort of started sailing, and what's a skill that really has kept you going and it has been given to you by sailing?
I wouldn't necessarily say it's a skill, but confidence. My mother, as she likes to remind me, publicly put on a Facebook comment the other day that since doing sailing, I'm a changed person. I'm far more confident than I ever used to be.
Yeah, I've got to say that we've watched Kate in particular, but all of our sailors grow with confidence. Many come to blind sailing, and we hope someone listening to this audio description of blind sailing and will come to us, no matter what your background is, no matter what your level of visual impairment or your experience. Because Chris, you came with a little bit of knowledge, didn't you, about a bit about sailing? So you wasn't totally new to the aspect of sailing. Am I right?
You're right. So when I was 15, I learned to sail on the tiniest pond ever, and did my first GP14 and 420 sailing. So I got out on a trapeze, and that just inspired me to want to sail. When I lost my sight, I thought, can I still do that? And in my mind was, not sure I can really still do that. But I worked with a club up here and with some friends who took me to a boat, did all hands on with the rigging, so I felt everything and understood what everything did, and that just helped me get me back into the sport, and it's all grown from there, really.
Definitely. And Kate, you'd been on a tool ship, but you weren't a sailor, were you? You'd come from a different sport. You'd transitioned from another visually impaired sport. Tell us a little bit about your transition.
So I had been playing goalball for years, and for those of you who don't know what it is, it's mad, it's mental. I'm so relieved that I changed my sport, to be honest, because that sport is specifically for people with visual impairment only. And in my opinion, I got too old. I got too old to lay on the floor in front of a moving ball at speed and put myself in harm's way. Basically, I got too old, got too battered and bruised, and I needed a different outlet. And I needed to experience something different. And I really wasn't a sailor at all. I had done the tool ship, for a day. But I wouldn't say that even though I tried sailing when I was much younger, could remember and retain anything. So I came to blind sailing, who literally picked me up from the ground, you know, put me in a variety of different boats, from very small yachts to dinghies. And I'm now absolutely obsessed with sailing. Any experience I can go on, I'm there. Any opportunity to learn, to gain the experience of life within sailing, it's my opportunity. I take it.
Definitely, definitely. I think Chris and Kate have touched on so many aspects of blind sailing. What we hope to give people a touch of freedom. For many visually impaired people, getting around can be awkward. Those bins they put out on a bin day just change the whole environment. Those roadworks, but when you jump into a boat, and we're going to experience this a bit more in another one of our Audible information about blind sailing, it's a massive sense of freedom, and you're basically sailing, you and your crew, from A to B, and enjoying the experience using all of your other senses, and including, and we'll get Kate and Chris to work through this in another update. You can sail with no sight, I promise you. You can sail with a little bit of sight, and you can sail with a great deal of sight. It's about how using your other senses and working as a team with our volunteers that come on board. So you're never left alone, are you, Kate and Chris? You're not
No.
alone.
What I would say is I saw Kate join blind sailing, and for somebody who was scared to step onto a rib to get to a boat, to now she's the most confident person out there.
Yeah, definitely, and that shines through, I think, through Kate's voice. So I think if you're listening and you want to give sailing a go, then do get in touch with us via our website, www.gbrblindsailing.co.uk, or get in touch with us via email, blind.sailing@yahoo.co.uk, or via Facebook, Blind Sailing UK. You can find us almost anywhere, and we'd be happy to have you on board. So big thanks to Kate and Chris for joining us tonight. Thank you, guys.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Lucy.